This is Why So Mysterious, the podcast where we attempt to fill the gap between the bodies we have and the lack of knowledge around them.
We're sharing our experiences and answering our own questions,
with some help along the way,
to destigmatize tricky, taboo topics.
The
triple T's. Posture.
Posture.
All right.
It's hard. It's hard on my body.
I'm gonna introduce.
All right. Please introduce this episode.
All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Why So Mysterious. I'm Raven.
And I'm Sara.
And today we're going to be talking about
vaginas!
Okay. Sara, take it.
I'm just kidding, sorry.
But
actually,
that is true.
Yeah, I might have just broken Sonia's ears. Sorry.
We're going to be talking about what even is a healthy vagina, what's supposed to come out of it when it's healthy,
what's happening,
all that.
What's it supposed to smell like?
Exactly.
That's a really important one.
And something that a lot of people are worried about.
And let's just crush the overall stigma and taboos around vaginas, because it is about damn time.
We're going to do all that today,
it's
right
going to be
now.
Encompassed in this one
Tomorrow,
episode.
It's going to be a thing of the past.
It is. It is. Goodbye shame. Goodbye taboos.
Goodbye stigma.
Hello vaginas.
So Sara's going to take us through, again, the anatomy.
Yep.
The whys, the why nots.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to talk about a little known product that people used to put up there because somebody told them to.
Ooh, scandalous.
Escandalo. Truly.
Truly. All right. Okay. So tell me, how's your relationship with discharge in your vagina?
Well, I remember when I was I think I was in grade 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I was in grade 6. Something around there.
Yeah.
And one day going to the bathroom and seeing something in my underwear and being like, what the fuck is that? And getting really freaked out.
Oh, that's interesting.
It had never happened to me because it's a puberty thing, right? Like you don't
I guess
have
so.
that.
I didn't even include any of that in here, but
Well, that was really scary, and I went home and told my mom because that's what we do. And I was really scared, and I told her, I was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me, and my mom was like, that's discharge. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And then she told me what discharge was, and she was like, that means that, you know, in the next like year or so you'll probably start your period. I started my period like 4 or 5 years later, so it wasn't like super close, but I had discharge for years leading up to that. So that's my relationship, I would say, kind of set the tone where it's like, this just is a thing. And also, like, I feel like personally, like, my relationship with that is if something's wrong, I'll know.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise,
I agree.
It's just,
it's fine.
Whatever.
It's peachy.
Who cares?
Yeah. I totally agree.
So.
That's so interesting. I literally cannot remember when I discovered discharge.
Really?
No, I remember seeing it in my underwear, but not being at all alarmed. Like,
you weren't worried?
No, it's just there.
I was a very nervous child.
Yeah,
I'm a nervous adult.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know, because I used to wash my. This is a little scandalous story. I bought my first thong when I was in, I think, 6th grade. Living in my very conservative Christian household. Ooh. Thongs were not allowed. So I would hand wash.
You wanted a thong that bad.
Oh, I wanted a thong that bad. So I would hand wash my thongs and then put them in between my mattress to dry, which now thinking back, I'm like, that's the worst place for them to dry ever. Or I'd like strategically hang them behind something or whatever. But so I remember washing my thongs and seeing discharge and be like, oh, okay, cool. And just moving on.
Just can't.
Never questioning it.
I just can't imagine being like so chill about it. It's funny just because.
I can't imagine looking at it and being alarmed.
Okay, we're very different.
We are. Very. But basically, this episode, I just wanted to talk about what discharge is.
Do you want to tell everybody kind of how this episode came about. Should we go into that at all? The viral Instagram
because I am going to talk
influencer
about.
post?
I'm going to talk about that product that they were recommending.
Okay, then. Yeah.
So basically, Raven sent me it was like a TikTok video, but it was on Instagram.
I think it was a reel, I guess. And I had...
That is what
that
is.
I had seen it, Elephant in the Womb, Victoria Alexander, who we interviewed, episode 3. Go back and listen. I'd seen it on their story.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you sent it to me, and it was basically these two women. I have no idea what they do. They're like public speakers or something. They're, whatever. I have no comment on them whatsoever. Okay. I'm not saying it's bad that they're public speakers. They're just, I think that's what they are. I think
they're like mom blogger influencers. Yeah, exactly. I would say, yeah.
Anyways, they just made this post where it was like a real like, do you have like stinky vag? Like, here, use this product. Oh, do you have like...
Or did you know that you need to like shove this thing all the way up there?
Do you need to? Did you know you need to use this? What's the suppository stick called?
I don't know.
Stick
insert tool.
Yeah, exactly. That you need to use this to insert it all the way up, and you need to do it daily to not have a stinky vag.
But it was also set to the song "Tricky."
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's tricky, tricky. And it's like, oh, what is happening?
It was like so alarming. And then I started looking into the product, and it was a boric acid suppository, which in many cases, now that I've done a lot of the research, I would recommend if you have really bad like BV.
It's not a bad product.
No, it's not a bad product, but like if you have like bacterial vaginosis, or if you have like a really intense yeast infection and you're not finding, like, there are other things I would recommend before I would recommend this product ever.
It's certainly not a daily product.
No, but that's what I think is so alarming is they were promoting it as a daily product to keep yourself smelling clean and not stinky. But that's also what the company promotes it for.
Yeah, they promote it as a daily use.
As a daily use.
Yeah.
Which a company is going to do that because they want to sell more products.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
That's just how it works. But anyways, that kind of brought us to this conversation of like, what even is a normal vagina in the sense of like, what is discharge supposed to be like? What, like what odor, what color, whatever, so that people just know that there is supposed to be a smell. Like, it's not supposed to be like floral or like completely odorless, It is supposed to have a smell. Just like, balls. Like, balls have a smell. Wieners. Butts definitely have smells. Mouths for sure. Yeah, I'm sure we can name many others. Armpits.
Heads. Like hair.
Toes.
Yeah.
So many.
No, we're just naming body parts.
Yeah, we are. Anyways, okay. So basically, it brought us to this. Like, what is this? What are vaginas supposed to smell like?
Yeah. When should you just like accept it as a fact and not like worry?
Yeah, exactly.
And then vice versa.
Yeah. When should you be alarmed versus also when is it just totally normal and we need to accept the fact that there is an odor, not a foul odor, just an odor.
Yeah.
It just smells. Okay, so we'll go into the basics of what discharge actually is. Because really when we're talking about like the shame and stigma of vaginas, other than like what they look like, because that's a whole nother podcast episode. They're not like trimmed and tight little things.
No.
They come in like all shapes and sizes and colors. But when people are talking about odors or like, when they're talking about the shame around vaginas, for the most part, we're talking about like that they smell stinky or fishy or whatever. Like, we've all heard the references of like fish smell.
I'm pretty sure that's why in like the drag community it's called being fish, when you're like very femme and can pass and are presenting extremely
Oh,
feminine,
really?
it's called fishy
Really?
because of that smell.
Oh.
So every time they say it, I'm
stigma
like,
runs deep.
on Drag Race, I'm like, I get it, but every time they do, I like cringe a little bit because I'm
Cringe a
like,
little bit.
you have to call it that.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So basically, it is like I just want to like absolutely crush the stigma of the smell because, basically what people are talking about is discharge. Discharge is what's coming out of you, and that's what's gonna smell like.
Yeah.
It's not the skin; it's the discharge.
And it's an important function, as I'm sure you're going to tell us.
It's an incredibly important function. As we have explained many a times, vaginas are like self-cleaning ovens. So discharge is like just, I don't know, the soap coming off the walls of the, well, I guess it's not soap because it's a self-cleaning oven. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It is the good and bad stuff just coming out. It's just cleaning the vagina.
Yeah.
And basically, so we call it discharge, but it is cervical fluid.
Which I just found out. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
I didn't actually really think about where it was coming from. I just was like, it's coming out.
Yeah, there it is.
But it is cervical fluid.
Okay.
So basically, there are glands near your cervix, around your cervix, your vaginal walls, basically, that create these vaginal secretions, or cervical fluid. So basically, you should expect to see discharge every day. Mm-hmm. There are certain periods of the month where different amounts will appear. Mm-hmm. So when we say like, look for when it's off balance, it's also like know that it is technically off balance all month long. It's just like fluctuating.
Okay.
So what you basically have is your period obviously comes and goes. So if you start tracking at day 1 is when you start your period. Mm-hmm. Day 7, you're hopefully ending your period. And then the 7 to 14 day window, the end of the follicular phase.
Okay.
We've got, so that one is the lotion texture.
I'm sorry.
I have descriptions of all the textures.
That is handy, but also I'm not going to lie, I got a little grossed out for a second.
But why? Why are we grossed out?
I don't know.
It's totally fine. Just imagine like a little pump of lotion in your hands, then put it in your underwear.
We're doing crafts.
We're doing crafts here, people. Okay, so that is basically what's your body obviously is like preparing for ovulation. So you're not ovulating yet, but it is creating a nice environment where if you were to have penetrative sex with a penis and sperm were to enter, it would allow the lotiony discharge allows the sperm to live in a soft environment for 5 to 6 days. It's now up to 6 days. Is that disturbing? Oh,
I don't know. That's a weird one, but also like that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So because the natural, so I'm gonna backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
The natural scent, which we should look for in our discharge, is like a very faint acidic smell. So like very faint vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
watered down vinegar.
Vinegar in the next room.
Exactly. Perfect. Because basically vaginas are acidic.
Yes.
So it is natural for you to smell like a slightly, but I think that's when people are like, oh, it smells sour. But I'm like, no, as long as it doesn't smell like pungent, like it's like,
it shouldn't
really
be like
intense.
Overpowering.
No.
Yeah.
You should have to go to your underwear and smell a slight scent of vinegar. At least in my opinion, that's what I smell.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then it's acidic, so it makes sense. Because, facts. Okay, so then the nice lotiony discharge allows the sperm to live in there. The ovulation window, which we know is only about 36 hours, 48 hours,
It's
maybe
short.
2 days. You'll see though that your discharge becomes more clear, so it becomes more like egg whites. Yeah, and apparently it can stretch like crazy, which I've personally never tried to stretch my discharge.
I'm having a personal light bulb moment right now.
Really?
I'm not going to share. I'm just actually
Okay, you don't have to. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's eggy, wet, slippery, and stretchy are the descriptions of, and I've seen it. I mean, it makes sense. Like it's more clear, so it goes from that lotiony to a more egg white texture, and which is really interesting. So at this point, the sperms are swimming if we are, doing that. And that discharge acts as a filtration system.
What?
Yeah, because it's slipperier. Only the faster, more determined sperm get through.
Can I just, side note here real quick. When I was in 11th grade biology and we were learning about the penetration of the egg, about like conception, my biology teacher just paused for a moment after she said only the strongest sperm make it through. She looked at all of us very lovingly for a moment and went, "Isn't it nice to know you were all the best at something once?"
Seriously?
Yeah. She was cruel.
That is awful.
Really, and she looked like such a
but
mom
also
too.
hilarious.
And true.
And true.
Anyway.
At least we can all go to our deathbeds. Like, I was really good at this one thing
I was
once.
really good at getting to the egg first and getting in.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Anyway.
But yeah, so it basically is a filtration system of it literally has to be faster than it can slip back down.
Okay. All right.
And apparently it filters out defects. So if it actually like abnormal like structures, it said, it basically like those won't be able to climb the slipperiness of this type of discharge.
Trippy.
Which is really interesting. I thought it was just like really cool that, regardless of if you're going to ever have sperm up in there.
Yeah.
That your body basically is trying to make it like only the best is going to get in here. Like we're going to try and make this as most successful if you're going to do it as possible.
But also it's just like, I don't know, I find it like kind of comforting to know that like everything in your body has a purpose.
Yeah, it's like
we're very well designed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah.
I was like when I read that, because I've always heard obviously it's eggy and whatever, like egg whites, but I've never thought like why would it change?
No, me neither.
From like phase to phase, but it makes sense because it's like we are designed for procreation, not what we have to live by.
They wouldn't have made it feel so good if it was only for that, I don't think.
True.
But then also maybe they made it feel so good so that we'd have more babies. I don't know. It's a chicken and an egg situation.
Very true.
But who doesn't like fucking? Anyway.
Very true. Okay, so then say you don't get the sperm. The sperm don't win.
Yeah.
They don't get up in there. Then you go into your luteal phase. And that's, 2 weeks prior to your period starting. And that's when it starts to transition from like the slippery or lotiony, egg white to a more thick glue-like. So imagine like, what's the type of glue that's like this, like where you paste it on?
Glue stick?
Like a glue stick. Like if you were to take, not the glue stick.
It's like kind of tacky.
It's like tacky.
Okay.
And thicker, because I think if it's like glue, like Elmer's glue, that's basically lotiony. Like that's it's more sticky, but I think it's definitely more thicker, and that basically is just you can't get sperm through that. It's like total no-go zone for sperm. So it travels nowhere, and
because I guess at that point it's too late to fertilize an egg, so why bother?
Exactly.
Got it.
So it just like slows it completely shuts it down, basically. You can't move through it. And then at the same time, progesterone, our favorite hormone, the one that makes you crampy and bloated and constipated, also literally makes your vagina dry up. So there's just nowhere for the sperm to go because it's just thick and drier. And then you get your period and it all starts all over again.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's kind of the phases of discharge.
Okay. I learned a lot, I'm not going to lie.
I know, right? Me too. I learned a lot. And obviously this is based on, this is obviously based off of like, you know, general menstruating age. If you are younger than that, you might have discharge before your period. You might, I would assume everybody would have discharge before your period, but
Yeah.
I would assume that it's probably of just a type of consistency rather than the fluctuating. But maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? We'll maybe dig more into puberty discharge. Anyways, and then I know that because of hormonal changes during perimenopause, you do see a decrease in just discharge. And that is just has to do with hormones.
Yeah, that makes sense too for what's going on in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basics. That's what should be happening.
Okay.
Now we'll go into what can happen.
Okay.
If other things happen. There are basically, which I mentioned before, you know, most commonly, yeast infections and BV. Those will fluctuate your discharge, therefore signaling that something is wrong. You will also have like itchiness, soreness, redness. Like those are also clear symptoms.
A more intense smell as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so there's like a little bit of like a cheat sheet to what to look for if you have BV or yeast infections. So yeast infections typically have thick, white, and cottage cheese like discharge.
Okay.
So I think what you're looking for then is like quite clumpy and like, you know, maybe like, I don't know how to describe. Everybody knows what cottage cheese looks like. If you don't,
it's clumpy.
It's a clumpy, clumpy little rounds, you know. They don't really talk too much about odor for a yeast infection.
Okay.
So that might be the bigger difference between yeast infection and BV. Because BV, there is fishy odor is how they describe it. So yeast infection, I would say, is probably more common than BV.
I think it is. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so basically, you've got thick white cottage cheese. You've got your burning, your itching, all the classic things of a yeast infection. If you've never had one before, those are kind of like the basic things that are like your red flags, like this is happening to you. It can happen from sex. It can happen from taking antibiotics. It can happen from having a misbalance in hormones. Like there's a lot of times you can have candida, which is just an overgrowth of bacteria, a good bacteria, goodish bacteria, like a bacteria that's supposed to be there.
Everybody has it. It's just when it gets overgrown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was actually, interestingly enough, like that is what yeast infections really are.
Candida?
It isn't candida, it's slightly, I'm always going to botch the actual medical terms. It's a candidiasis or something like that. But it's like clearly a candida derivative, and which I had candida 2 months ago. My biggest recommendation is to change your nutrition. It is hugely affected by sugar and carbs, specifically like wheat. So don't worry, you can still have like rice and those kind of things, but basically like gluten-free, sugar-free for I don't know how long.
Oh, it depends on how bad you have it. Some
dependent.
People 6 months, some people 2 months, but also
some people it's 2 weeks. Like,
some people it's 2 weeks.
I saw a huge drastic difference in 2 days.
Yeah.
But that I would say I would recommend before buying
over-the-counter stuff.
Yeah, like suppositories or those kinds of things. But back in the day, I used to use Monistat when I got yeast infections, and I pretty much always cleared it up. I tried to Google today, like, what is bad about Monistat, and I couldn't really find anything other than you are putting an antifungal inside of you.
Yeah.
And that's not very good.
It's also just another thing that goes in and kind of kills everything, which is what an antibiotic is supposed to do. But, there's a lot of very, precious flora in the vagina that you don't really want to kill.
Exactly.
But sometimes genuinely there isn't any other way.
You just have to.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you just need that relief from it. So if you do, I would say probably do that rather than boric acid. First, I would go Monistat first and then boric acid if you absolutely have to. But I would say diet is going to change your life. It's going to make it so much easier. Versus, so bacterial vaginosis is white, yellow, or gray. It doesn't really change, I think, the texture too much. Yeast infection changes the texture for sure. BV, it's more now the smell of it is fishy. You're obviously having itching and swelling. So, and then a yellow, I think yellow and gray is probably white. I mean, I think discharge for the most part is fairly white. So it would be more if it's yellow or gray. That's going to be your signals for BV.
Right.
And I know you had some you took probiotics?
Yeah, I mean, I had a chronic BV for a few months after using a tampon, which my body was not ready for. And I went on several rounds of antibiotics and they always worked, but it always came back.
Yeah.
Within about a week.
That's what BV is basically a reoccurring.
Yeah.
Similar to yeast infection, but
it's a bacterial infection. And so, and then the last doctor that I had, I was just really at the end of it's it sucks. It's a really shitty thing to have, and especially over and over again. And I just kind of told her, she was a new doctor at a walk-in or someone I'd never seen. And I was I don't know what the fuck, I can't keep taking antibiotics. I don't want to keep doing this.
Which is, it's so hard on your system to repeatedly take antibiotics.
So she wrote me a prescription anyway. She's you can fill it if you want to, but she was you've done this so many times, I don't really want to put you back on it. So she was have you tried anything else? And I said no. And she went, you should try it's marketed to women, but it's a women's probiotic. And then she also told me there's charcoal suppositories and a few other things that I could try. And the first thing that I tried was a probiotic from the health store, and I took one once a day and it cleared up within a couple weeks. And then I just kept taking the probiotic for a few months, and I haven't had a problem since. So I'm very thankful to that doctor.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So that is a hopeful treatment for BV. They do say, go to your doctor, but often they will just prescribe you antibiotics.
Sometimes it's worth a shot, though.
Sometimes it is. It might clear it up the first time, but if you're feeling it's not going away and you're having to do multiple rounds of antibiotics, that's when I would say try the probiotics.
Change your diet.
Your diet. If those things don't work, you can try the boric acid suppositories. I really don't want to say that I recommend them because it's just
they're an
option. And I have seen a lot of reviews of people being I finally feel relief. I've tried everything, and that's the only reason I'm recommending it, is because I literally just read through a ton of reviews from people being I tried literally everything, and this is the only thing that has stopped my BV from coming back. So I'm okay, clearly it works. Hopefully you just use it once. Or one round or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Because it does. It just cleans out everything, which is not good.
You don't need to do that once a day.
No, God, no. You really, and if anything, that's just going to cause probably more issues for you.
Yeah, it will.
Definitely. And when I'm talking about boric acid, please, for the love of God, do not pick up your borax that is under your kitchen sink.
Oh, God.
Because I actually saw an article today where someone was talking about how boric acid is the best thing. And they're yeah, the stuff from under your sink? I am not kidding you.
I'm sure that that's happened too.
Yeah, so I'm like,
God.
that if we are talking about boric acid,
Don't get it twisted.
don't get it twisted. Like, it is not the same thing. It is from the same compound, but they are pulled from this mineral completely differently.
Yeah.
One is extremely dangerous and kills bugs and stuff, and I think rodents. And then one, you buy it from like a company that is then making it as a suppository for your vagina.
Yeah.
Like, do not buy anything else.
It's meant to be ingested.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but not ingested in your mouth because you can die.
Don't do that. Also.
Yeah. It's only, that's another thing. That's why I'm like, I just don't like products that have like, oh, if you do it wrong, you die.
Right.
Like,
that's fair.
No, that's why I'm like, I hate this. But, you know, if it gives you relief. So, absolutely do not ingest it in your mouth. You can die from ingesting boric acid. You have to only put it inside of your vagina.
Got it.
Nowhere else, people.
I hope I never have to.
I know, never. Okay, my last thing. Just a couple things, and I think it's going to tie into what you're going to talk about.
Okay.
Because how do we keep our vagina and vulva happy?
Yes.
Because
Tell me.
that is all we want in life. We want it to be happy and just discharging every day regularly. So do not douche, please.
Mm-hmm.
Do not douche. We do not douche. Wow.
Nobody wants you to douche.
Nobody wants you to
Doctors
douche.
don't want you to douche.
Nope.
We don't want you to douche. Nobody.
And don't overclean.
Yes.
I used to overclean,
Yeah.
like majorly,
Mm-hmm.
thinking I needed to.
Yes.
I realize now I've not overcleaned for years and I'm perfectly fine.
You're probably better than you were
I'm
when you were
so much better.
overcleaning.
Yeah. This one is optional, but
Okay.
keep the pubes. If you want, apparently they can help keep things away.
Yeah, that's what.
You
That's how hair works.
That's apparently what it's for.
yeah.
I'm all bush down there, so I'm like, yeah, cool. This one I thought was pretty important. Check your lube ingredients.
Yes.
That one, I never really thought about it, but of course,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always just bought nice lubes because I just like. I guess like deep down I knew I was like, keep bad things out.
Smart.
So keep the things, don't buy things with parabens, scents, flavors, or non-natural oils.
I would also just say even sometimes glycerin. I know glycerin is technically natural, but the glycerin in some people, not everybody, can actually cause micro tears in your vagina.
Interesting.
Yeah, it happened to a friend of mine. I know that's not like a goosebump story or whatever that's from,
No.
but I'm serious. So
creepypasta.
just be aware. If you're
Yeah.
new to lube, maybe just steer clear of glycerin to begin with.
Yeah.
If you're using it and you don't have any issues, fine.
There is, okay, so I was like, okay, I feel like I need to have one brand that I can like recommend that I've already vetted to not have any of these things.
Mhm.
And there's a brand called Uber Lube. So
Uber Lube?
UBER Lube.
Okay.
And it has the umlaut over the U.
Okay.
And it's on like Amazon if you want to buy off of Amazon, but it's also in like a ton of stores. So
It's not like a boutique.
it's like it's an accessible
Excellent.
lube that is safe. Another one was use body safe sex toys.
Yes.
So buying from places that are not going to sell you really, really cheap plastic
Mhm.
sex toys because the vagina is just like an open source to your body and will absorb bad toxins from plastics.
Mm-hmm.
Pee after sex.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important one. That's just like a general
Mm-hmm.
vulva happiness one. Practice safe sex. I think that somewhat is apparent to keep your body from getting STIs.
Yeah.
Practice safe sex.
Mhm.
STIs cause a lot of issues for your vagina.
They wreak a lot of havoc.
They do. Wear breathable underwear. Very important. And sleep naked.
Sleep
Always
naked.
do it. Well, that or just like no underwear on.
That's so funny. My mom like forbade us from wearing underwear to bed when we were kids.
Smart lady.
Yeah, she was like, "Are you wearing underwear under those pants?"
Yeah. Don't do it. I never sleep with underwear on. Either sleep naked
Me neither.
or just like with
Unless I have my
loose
period.
fitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
That's
Same
it.
time. Only time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is how you keep your vagina healthy. Those are how you
Okay.
can tell if your vagina is healthy. And just remember, it does have a smell.
Yes. That's great.
Cool.
I learned a lot.
Yay, I'm so happy.
Awesome.
Now you tell me.
Speaking of douching,
Oh,
I went down a rabbit hole like a while ago about kind of the history of douching for something that was work related, and there's some wild stuff in the history of douching, but the one thing that I came across that really floored me, and I was like, oh my god, we have to talk about this, and I felt like it was perfect for this episode.
Okay.
Is I'm gonna give you the surprise what it is.
Oh,
so let me
okay.
give you this nice little intro that I wrote.
Oh, please.
In the year 2020, there was a president who, during a global pandemic, wondered aloud in a press conference if an injection of disinfectant would clean out the lungs and kill the coronavirus.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that guy.
Oh,
I try to forget him all the time.
Oh, yes, we do. Very much try to forget him. Every day.
And immediately, the brand Lysol put out a statement that said, as a global leader in health and hygiene products, we must be clear that under no circumstances should our disinfectant products be administered into the human body through injection, ingestion, or any other route.
Oh, really now?
Which is...
Are we about to unravel some crazy story?
It's a little bit ironic because it's more than a little bit ironic. It's pretty fucked up, actually. In the mid-20th century, Lysol was advising women to do exactly that. So, Lysol disinfectant was actually invented to fight cholera.
What's that?
Cholera is very similar to dysentery.
Yep.
Yeah, I think dysentery is bacterial and cholera is viral, maybe. But either way, highly contagious. Shit yourself to death. Nobody wants it. It's bad stuff. Nobody.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. So, yay for Lysol in that arena.
Thank you,
and,
Lysol, for that.
Then in 1918, and then of course with the coronavirus, people were making this comparison all the time.
Right.
In 1918, it was used for the influenza pandemic.
Right.
And it was very effective and everybody loved it.
Awesome.
And then we started living in a world where people didn't get sick like that all the time. And Lysol was
We're all like chill and just
immunity.
Happy and like, woo.
Nothing bad ever happened. Anyway, so yeah, Lysol needed a more like consistent customer.
Oh, I
there
see. They're like, where can we put our products?
So in the 1920s, they set their sights on the housewife.
And her vagina.
Yes. So I was going to say. So housewives who would not be directed to scrub a toilet or a sink with the caustic fluid, but to use it as a vaginal douche.
Oh my fucking god.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
No, it's not. It's not, but... Oh, okay. Continue.
So,
please.
And then as soon as kind of they decided to do that, all of a sudden they had these ads everywhere. Like you couldn't, so this is the 1920s, radio was really big. So it was on radio ads constantly, magazine ads, newspaper ads, all this stuff. And basically the theme of every single one of these ads was that everyone who has a vagina needs to be douching with Lysol, otherwise their husbands will leave them.
Oh my god.
So I have a couple of my favorite ads that I would like to read to you. So one ad... This is verbatim. This is the actual copy. A man marries a woman because he loves her. So instead of blaming him if married love begins to cool, she should question herself. Is she truly trying to keep her husband and herself eager, happy married lovers? One most effective way to safeguard her dainty feminine allure is by practicing complete feminine hygiene as provided by vaginal douches with a scientifically correct preparation like Lysol.
Fuck you. Are you kidding me? Scientifically correct?
Scientifically correct.
So everything you're doing that's not this is incorrect.
Is incorrect.
Fuck you,
and you're
Lysol.
Headed for the divorce court. So
oh my god.
Here's another one that I really liked. This is a print ad. Is a woman, she's like stuck behind a spider's web.
What?
She's stuck behind this web and she's looking at her husband who's named Tom in the ad because everybody gets like a name.
Such a Tom guy.
Fucking Tom.
Demand his wife douche
with
Lysol.
Well, he's just sitting in an armchair reading a book. He looks really grumpy and she's just like in the background like stuck behind this web. And it says, held in a web of indifference. I just love vintage ads already
They are
because
so ridiculous.
the narrative is so funny. Even just giving these people names like Tom and Susan and stuff is like really funny. But then it's held in a web of indifference. Okay, this one's my favorite. Is a woman stuck in like a vortex whirlpool, and she's got her hands like lifted up to the sky, and she's freaking out over something. And then in all caps, really big, it says, "Too late to cry out in anguish."
What? Too late for what?
To cry out in anguish.
No, but like, why is she crying out?
It's too late. You could have douched with Lysol, but now your man's gone, and it's too late. You're crying, but boo-hoo, you fucked up.
Like, she lost her man.
It's too late for her.
Fuck Lysol.
So,
oh my god.
This is just 3 of many ads. Seriously, go Google Lysol douche. It's a wild, wild ride. But yeah, the narrative running through all of them is basically the smell of a vagina is so filthy that it needs regular washing with an antiseptic, and that Lysol is doing them a favor by letting them know how disgusting they are without using it.
Oh my god.
It's really something.
It's really something.
It really is.
That is taking the... If you look at the era, like, and I mean, still, if you look at like cisgendered men today, they don't talk about their feelings a whole lot, a lot of the time. Let alone in the 1920s, I can only imagine how much they did not talk about.
Post World War I, I don't think that was happening.
So. They were talking like, "Hey, honey, I just really want a hug," you know, like they were just sitting there reading their fucking book because they could not deal with their emotions. And then the wife is flipping through her little magazine, and she's like, "This is why my husband doesn't talk to me.
It's my fault.
It's my fault." No, it's because he was, you know, a soldier in the war.
He's got PTSD.
Yeah, like it's not your fucking fault.
That's exactly it. And so
so you just like play on the heartstrings of these housewives, like.
But also, what's quite wild about this too is, and we'll get into a little bit of sort of like the covert reason people were using this, but this is not like, you know, when we talked about the Rely tampon story, it's like that the tampon was created for that one and only purpose, and that's why we have tampons. This product was created to fight deadly diseases, and then they decided
to put it up the vagina.
Yeah. That's weird.
It's super fucking
weird. I don't get it. So now you may be wondering, of course, why would a reasonable person ever douche with something that they could also disinfect their bathroom with? It's because these ads were also covertly telling women that Lysol was an effective birth control.
What?
So let me read you so back in the day, they would have like the copy in an ad that was like the story with Tom and the web. And then they would have almost like a little article that had the, you know, the backup, the claims, the fake scientists that were telling you it was safe. So I'm going to read this to you. Douche thoroughly with correct Lysol solution. Its low surface tension, in quotes, means greater spreading power, which reaches more deeply and more effectively into folds and crevices to search out germs. What rhymes with germs?
Sperms!
Yeah. Sperm rhymes with germ.
Oh my God.
So, according to historian Andrea Tone, and she has a book that I really want to get my hands on called Devices and Desires, A History of Contraceptives in America, Lysol was the most popular form of birth control between 1930s and the 1960s. And it was only taken off the market. Well, I mean, obviously it was still on the market as a disinfectant, but they only stopped advertising it as a hygiene product when the pill was legalized in the 1960s.
Wow.
And it's trippy because none of these ads specifically said it's for birth control. And that's
just germs.
Well, it was just like sly little things that you could read into it, but also like, I'm saying women here because it's definitely at the time was like, you know, a kind of a, not cis, but that kind of an issue.
I mean, it just, I know what you mean.
Yeah. All these women were really used to having to read between the lines when it came to reproductive health. Nothing was out in the open.
Of course. There was no resources for them.
No, and certainly not on a product box. Maybe you had a cool doctor, but it's pretty unlikely.
I mean, let's just be honest. It hasn't progressed a whole lot further.
Not really. So it was never specified in a print ad that this could be used as birth control because being blatantly honest and like frank about contraceptives and anything that was printed or spoken on the radio was actually illegal.
About contraceptives?
Yes. It was called the Comstock Act, and it was found all contraceptives to be illegal and immoral. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, even though I found a lot of information, which I could, but I just feel like everybody should know. Anthony Comstock, he's the namesake of the Comstock Act, was a chronic masturbator.
Oh my God.
And the reason that we know this is because his journals are public record now.
Oh my God.
And he talked about jerking it a lot.
Oh my gosh.
And then he talked about how guilty he felt about it.
Good. I hope he did.
He should, because he's a
not that I want anyone to feel guilty about masturbating, but he sounds like a terrible human being.
He's a hypocrite. Like nobody's business.
Hypocrite.
So I just wanted to let everybody know
I hope his penis hurt from all his masturbating.
Very chafed, I'm sure.
Very chafed. I really hope so.
And like I'm sure because it is very relevant to a lot of things that we talk about here, so I'm sure we'll circle back to that at some point. But moving on. So this was one of the most popular forms of birth control, but surprise, it was not particularly effective unless killing the consumer was considered effective.
Oh, shit.
So in 1933, there was a study at the Maternal Health Center in Newark, New Jersey, and it found that over half of the women who were using this as a birth control were still getting pregnant. And those who weren't getting pregnant, or maybe they were pregnant because this could still happen anyway, the side effects of using Lysol as a douche are burning, blistering, bleeding, and death.
Oh, no.
And this is because the main ingredient at the time, they've changed their formula since then, but obviously they still don't tell you to put it in your vag, was Cresol. Cresol is a crude carbolic acid, coal, and wood combination. It is corrosive.
Oh, God.
It burns and corrodes tissue, and it also has an effect on the kidneys, liver, brain, blood, and lungs. So it's like a full body
just
problem.
So fucking terrible.
Also, like the nervous system was one. So if you Google Cresol, there's a list of all the ways that you can come in contact with Cresol, and it'll tell you what parts of your body it'll affect based on that. Yeah.
Is it a common thing to come in contact with?
I mean, Cresol is a thing. I guess people still use it as a corrosive agent. So like one thing that they focused on is like if you inhale it, and then there's a list of how long have you been inhaling it for, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and then it tells you, and then it tells you what some of the dangers are based on how long you've been breathing it.
Oh, wow.
So it's serious.
Yeah. Sounds fucking terrifying, and I am curious what their research clinical trials were for this fucking product.
I don't have any information on that.
Probably none.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say not much. You may also be wondering how many people took Len and Fink were the company who owned Lysol.
Okay.
How many people took them to court for vaginal scalding or wrongful death? And the answer is actually a lot.
Good.
But
Thank God.
All the complainants lost every case. Every case.
Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, these people had a lot of money, so they would claim that the consumer had misused the product or that the individual...
Yeah, because they never Well, how? They said to put it in the vagina.
Yeah, and there's like a whole
What's the misuse if it's said to put in there?
Well, I mean, with douching, there's a little dance you got to do with it, and also
you spray it in and spray it out.
Yeah, you have to also it's not just straight Lysol solution. You dilute it with water, all this stuff. There's a hose involved. I don't know. Shit. So things can go wrong aside from whatever it is that you're douching with. Now, I think it's just saline for the most part. But
because I know douching, postpartum douching is a thing.
People still there's I mean
why would people still be douching today?
The only relevant thing that I've ever come across is porn stars.
Okay. Yeah,
so maybe in sex work.
Yeah, sex work, I could see it.
Yeah.
You just have to be really careful. Saline, I think, probably would be
actually
fine.
You know what? I mean, maybe with sex work, but more I think with porn, because there's still a lot of states that like in California, it's illegal to have sex on camera if there isn't a condom involved, but that's not the case in all states, and that is definitely like a thing that people want is to not see protection.
Interesting.
So, and I think with like a lot of sex work, protection is usually on the table. I'm not saying with everyone,
So
I know, but
do you think? I'm totally just curious. Like, do you think they're douching to prevent STDs then?
Yeah, potentially, and also just like, I don't know, if you have sex with a stranger on camera and it's your job, do you really want anything lingering? You know,
you don't.
Could be just that.
Right.
I'm
that
not
totally
sure.
Makes sense.
So yeah, they took a lot of people to court, and they just kept being able to do what they were doing. So yeah, they said that the individual could just be allergic, and then they would point these individuals to a pamphlet that Lysol had printed up and sent to housewives. You could actually write away for it. There would be like you fill in your address and your name, and then you mail off the coupon, then they'll send you some literature, and it was a marriage hygiene pamphlet.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, and it was like, it was everything that you just told me, but from a misogynistic and capitalistic point of view.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it was literally called the Marriage Hygiene Handbook by Lysol.
God, that is so brutal that it wasn't even like, hey, do you feel discomfort? Do you feel like there's something going on? Here's a product. It's like literally you're going to lose not just your man.
Your life.
At the time, it would have been your like financial support, your like everything, your house, your whatever,
your security,
That's really fucking scary.
It's really scary. And like, actually, another thing that I found in like people taking Len and Fink to court was a lot of husbands sued Lysol for the injuries that their wife sustained. And that might have something to do with like it being very difficult for women to just sue people on their own.
Yeah.
But like, if you are anyone who cares about anyone and you find out that they've been burned, blistered,
you'd
scalded,
hopefully try to get some justice for them.
Yeah, definitely. So in 1952, Lysol finally removed Cresol from their formula, but
30 years later. Wasn't it in the 1920s?
Yeah, you're right. Holy shit, 30 years. Yeah, but it was still in 1952 advertised as a hygiene product, and they still maintained that if you got burned, it was your own fault.
Fuck. Oh my god.
So
it's so messed up.
It was a long road, like I said, for this to stop being a thing. It was allowed to be on the market for so long, and it wasn't any kind of legal action. It wasn't any kind of, public health outcry that made this no longer be a viable hygiene product. It was the legalization of birth control. That's what made them flip, and then it just became a household surface cleaner. And so it was that.
Just that.
That's also wild. But one thing that, we talked about here too is just like the reason that this happened and that it was allowed to go on for so long is because of restricted access to sexual health information.
100%.
Restricted access to reproductive health.
If it's so popular because they're trying to prevent births or pregnancies, like, you need to give them more options. If they are burning their insides to prevent pregnancies, you need to give them more options. It is unacceptable to choose Lysol as your form of birth control. And then it doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't even work. And then you'll probably end up with like life-altering injuries. And also like it's so trippy because then at the end of this, it's just like this is still a thing. This is still so much of a thing. And especially like when you remove people's right to access accurate information about their own bodies and their own options, then people get desperate and they take very drastic measures.
They do.
And a lot of the time the most marginalized people end up paying the price with their lives. And then, look at what's going on in Texas right now with the new draconian abortion laws. And it's just like, why are we doing this? Who is it serving? Just
exactly who is it serving?
I don't understand. So while this is like reading the ads and stuff is like really entertaining,
it's funny,
and stuff,
but it's also devastating
because it's still happening.
So, it is still happening, and it is still very much a problem.
Yeah. So now I'm all fired up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Damn.
so that's the end of the Lysol story.
That's
Seriously,
crazy.
everybody should just go and Google Lysol douche, go down that rabbit hole, read those ads. They are wild.
I've seen a couple of them. You've shown them to me, and they are fucking ridiculous.
Yep, they are.
Like,
and everyone has a name. They're just like, oh, like poor Dave. His wife is such a bitch. And it's just like, fuck you, Dave.
Fuck you, Dave. Oh my god. That's crazy. Well, I think this is... Oh, I was actually going to add another thing. Because I was talking about lubes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, some people want to go all natural and stuff. But coconut oil is not recommended.
Why? Because I hear conflicting information about that all the time.
All the time. It's because coconut oil is a natural antibacterial. Similar to like how we use bamboo as a natural antibacterial. It like repels bacteria. Therefore, it also repels the good bacteria. It's not going to like harm you to put it in.
Right.
But it could fuck up your natural flora of bacteria in your vagina.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like if you have nothing else and you need to use it once, it's probably not going to mess you up. But if you're using it repeatedly, it might not be the best for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
That is good to know.
Right?
No,
that's kind of
sorry.
it. That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right. Well, I hope that everybody learned a few things.
I feel like there were some good golden nuggets in this
so,
episode.
too.
I
Yeah.
really like this.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for listening and learning.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Why So Mysterious is hosted by Sara Jonsdottir and Raven McLean. Audio is produced and edited by Sonia Inke. Original music is by Malcolm Holt and Alexis Young.
Check out our website, whysomysterious.com, for more information about this episode and other episodes. You can also email us with questions or topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show at whysomysteriousPod@gmail.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Why So Mysterious Pod for updates, fun facts, and general outrage. If you're an audio listener, but you'd rather be a voyeur, check us out on YouTube.
If you like the show, tell your friends, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Until next time!